The alarm sirens rang across the prison ship as emergency lights flashed red. The sound of metal clashing with metal echoed in the corridors. Inside one of the locked cells, a human soldier named Cole sat against the cold wall, his eyes half shut, but listening carefully. He didn't need to see the chaos. He could feel it in the vibrations under his boots. Outside his cell, a tall alien warrior named Rylana was banging her fists against the thick glass. She had been locked up for attacking her own commander. Her purple skin was covered in fresh scars. Her glowing orange eyes narrowed when the door opened suddenly and a group of guards stormed in. "You two. Up. Now," one of them ordered. Cole stood slowly while Rylana snarled. The guards entered and without a word chained them together at the wrists. A thick energy cuff locked with a loud snap, linking the human and alien by the arm. "What is this?" Rylana hissed. "Prisoner overflow," one guard said. "New protocol. 2 troublemakers, 1 punishment." Before either of them could argue, the guards dragged them toward the exit. The ship shook violently. Explosions thundered above. Somewhere, someone had breached the ship's engine room. Cole could smell burnt wires and melted steel. This wasn't a drill. Someone wanted the whole ship gone. They were thrown into a small escape pod. The hatch slammed shut. Cole barely had time to breathe before the pod launched away from the doomed ship. The force knocked both of them back, but the chain between them forced their bodies to stay close. Rylana glared at him with pure hatred. He didn't look at her. His eyes were locked on the view screen. Below them was a green and black planet. Clouds of toxic gas swirled near the surface. The system's logs flashed. Unmapped, hostile. The pod crashed hard. For a moment, everything went silent. When Cole woke up, the sun was burning orange above him. His head hurt, and his ears rang. The pod was half buried in soft black sand. The air smelled strange, like wet stone and ash. Rylana was already outside, yanking hard at the chain between them. "You did this," she growled. "No," Cole answered calmly. "We're both just trash to them." She tried to punch him, but the chain yanked her back when he moved. The bond was too short for full movement. They were stuck side by side. Literally. He looked around. The place was quiet, but the silence didn't feel safe. Trees in the distance looked like they were breathing. The ground shimmered in places where heat waves shouldn't be. This wasn't any normal planet. "We need water," Cole said, scanning the survival kit that was thrown from the pod. "And shelter before night." "You're not giving me orders, human." "I'm not. I just want to survive." She didn't answer, but she didn't stop him either. That was something. They walked together, struggling to stay balanced because of the chain. Every step had to be matched. If one stumbled, both did. Cole carried the emergency pack, while Rylana kept scanning the horizon with sharp eyes. Suddenly, something moved near a rock. A small creature with 10 legs and no eyes darted out, then exploded into a puff of gas as soon as it touched sunlight. Rylana froze. Cole didn't speak. Both of them realized the same thing at once. This planet was alive, and it didn't like visitors. Far above them, the wreckage of the prison ship floated in orbit, broken into pieces. No signals, no rescue, no help. The punishment wasn't just exile, it was abandonment. And now, a human and an alien who hated each other were chained together, forced to survive in a world built to kill them both. The forest ahead was dark and thick, even under the light of 2 suns. Strange vines moved slowly across the ground, like snakes searching for prey. The trees groaned in the wind, but there was no wind. Each sound made Rylana tense. She was trained to fear nothing, but this planet made her feel small. Beside her, Cole stayed quiet, his eyes scanning the environment like a soldier on patrol. They were chained at the wrist, their steps awkward. Rylana moved fast, Cole steady. The chain pulled between them, forcing them to adjust every few steps. "We're losing time," she said sharply. "There's no cover here." Cole stopped and pointed to a ridge up ahead. A cave was hidden behind thick roots. "We camp there." Rilana didn't argue this time. Inside the cave, the air was cooler, almost cold. A dim blue light came from moss on the walls. The place smelled of dust and something metallic. Cole checked for signs of predators. None. He cleared a spot and dropped the emergency kit. Rilana stayed near the entrance, eyes still watching outside. "What are you waiting for?" he asked. "For something to kill us. I'd rather not give it the chance." Cole started a small heat source from the kit. It glowed softly, keeping the air warm without fire. They sat, backs against opposite walls, the chain between them pulled tight. "I don't need your help," Rilana said after a long silence. Cole looked at her but didn't speak. "I could survive this alone." He shook his head. "That's not the point. We're chained. We survive together. Or we don't." She didn't answer. The night came quickly. The forest outside changed colors. Green turned purple, then deep blue. Strange sounds echoed, clicks, howls, whispers. Something large moved just beyond the trees but never came near the cave. Rilana didn't sleep. Cole closed his eyes for minutes at a time, waking at every new noise. Their movements were careful. Every time one shifted, the other felt it. They had no privacy, no freedom. By morning, the moss on the cave walls had died, turning black and dry. Cole packed up the gear while Rilana stretched her limbs. Both of them were tired. They moved again. The planet had no clear path. Trees grew in spirals. The sky shifted colors too fast. At one point, they saw a group of flying creatures in the distance. One screamed, and the others turned and tore it apart mid-air. The scream didn't end. It echoed long after the creature was gone. Cole and Rilana didn't speak. Later, they reached a field of glowing stones. Each stone pulsed with slow light like a heartbeat. Cole bent down to study one. It was warm and smooth. "Careful," Rilana warned. He touched it lightly. Nothing happened. Suddenly, all the stones around them blinked in unison. The ground rumbled. "Run." They didn't ask where. They just ran. The ground opened behind them, revealing sharp spikes under the soil. The field was a trap. Whatever controlled this place didn't want them walking through it. They escaped barely, jumping over a broken tree trunk. Cole landed hard, pulling Rilana down with him. Both tumbled, the chain dragging them through dirt and dry grass. They didn't speak for a long time. Covered in sweat and dust, they found another small cave and hid. Inside, they breathed heavily, their hands still shaking. Rilana broke the silence. "You keep doing that. Helping." Cole didn't look at her. "Habit. I don't understand humans. Most don't." Outside, the strange sky darkened. Again. Inside the cave, the two enemies sat shoulder to shoulder, forced together by metal. They didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But one thing was clear. The planet was testing them, and it wasn't finished. Rilana woke to the sound of Cole whispering to himself. His voice was low, barely a breath, but clear. He was counting. Not out loud for her, but for himself. "What are you doing?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. "Tracking heartbeats." "Calms me down," he replied. She stared at him for a moment, then looked away. There was something strange about the human. He didn't panic, he didn't yell, he didn't complain, even when his wrist was bruised from the chain. He just kept going, step by step, like it was all routine. Rilana had seen soldiers like that before. Most of them didn't live long. She stood up and checked the sky. It was now a sickly green color. There were no birds, no clouds, just that eerie glow. "We move," she said. They traveled deeper into the forest, following a trail of cracked stone that seemed to pulse faintly under their boots. Sometimes it led nowhere. Other times it passed by twisted trees covered in strange egg-like bulbs. At one point, a bulb near them twitched. They stopped. Rilana pulled Cole back. The chain tightened. The bulb opened slowly, revealing a wet black creature inside. It had no eyes, only a mouthful of needle-like teeth. It didn't scream or move. Just watched them with a hunger that could be felt. "We go around," Cole whispered. They walked in silence for hours. The forest changed again. Now the trees were flat and wide, like walls made of bark. They found a small stream with thick red water. It smelled like copper, but Cole tested it with a strip from the emergency kit. Clean, for now. They drank quickly and filled the canister. Rilana sat beside the stream, watching the water shimmer. "I was supposed to be a general," she said suddenly. Cole didn't look at her. "What happened?" "I didn't follow orders. I refused to kill prisoners." He nodded once. "Same here. I wouldn't shoot unarmed civilians." For the first time she smiled. Just a little. "So, they chained us both like dogs and threw us here." Cole stood and wiped dirt from his hands. "Worse, they made sure we'd die slow." Suddenly the ground near the stream cracked. Something under the surface moved. The water shifted. Cole grabbed Rilana and pulled her back just as a long limb shot out, sharp and pale like bone. It missed them by inches. The stream turned black. They ran again. This time they didn't stop until they reached high ground. It was a flat rock platform that overlooked a large open valley. In the middle of the valley stood a broken tower, ancient and covered in vines. It looked like it had been built long before either of them were born. "A ruin," Rilana said, pointing. "Maybe shelter, maybe something more." They agreed to move at first light. That night they rested on the high rock, keeping watch in turns. Rilana took first watch. She sat with her back to Cole, her hand on the hilt of a knife made from salvaged pod metal. She glanced at him once. He was asleep, his arm still chained to hers, his face calm despite the danger. She could have ended him there, quietly, easily, but she didn't. She turned her eyes to the stars, if that's what they were. They blinked too fast, too sharp. Maybe this planet didn't even have real stars. Maybe it was all fake. But one thing was real. The chain between them. The silence. The pain in her legs, the ache in her wrist. The human who kept surviving beside her, refusing to give up. And somewhere out there, deep in the shadows of this hostile world, something was watching them both. Waiting. By the time the sun rose, the light felt colder than the night. The sky above wasn't just green now. It flickered like it couldn't decide what color it wanted to be. Cole stood quietly, looking down at the valley. The broken tower below looked lifeless, but nothing on this planet ever truly was. "We move now," he said without turning. Rilana nodded. She had barely slept. Her body hurt from the uneven rock, and her wrist was sore from the metal cuff. But her eyes stayed sharp. Whatever was down there, she wanted to see it first. They made their way toward the tower. The ground cracked under their boots. Sometimes they had to climb over roots that pulsed slightly, like they were alive. Rilana stayed on guard, blade ready. Cole kept checking their surroundings, marking strange symbols in the dirt with his boot. When they reached the edge of the tower, the air grew still. There were no birds, no wind, just silence. The tower was made of black stone. It wasn't natural. The blocks were smooth, shaped, fitted together with precision. But vines had swallowed most of it, and strange glowing insects crawled across the surface, leaving trails of golden light behind them. Cole placed a hand on the stone wall. Ancient. Maybe pre-empire, he muttered. Rilana crouched by the doorway. It was half collapsed, but there was enough space to squeeze through. Cole followed behind her. Inside it was dark, cold, and dry. The sound of their breathing echoed against the walls. They found carvings, symbols neither of them could understand. One looked like a star with a black center. Another showed two figures chained together, surrounded by flames. "That looks like us," Rilana said quietly. Cole didn't respond. The deeper they went, the more twisted the walls became. The path sloped downward into a spiral. At one point, the chain caught on a jagged corner and nearly pulled them both down. They stopped to untangle it. Then they heard it. A sound. Faint, like a voice. Not clear, not in words. But it pulled at their minds. "Do you hear that?" Cole asked. "Yes," Rylana said, gripping her knife tighter. "But I don't like it." They followed the sound down into the lowest chamber. The space opened into a wide circular room. In the center was a device half buried in the ground. A ring of energy flickered around it. It looked like a portal, but broken. "It's dead," Cole said, moving closer. Rylana touched the edge. The ring buzzed weakly. Then her hand recoiled. "It knew me." "What?" "I felt something. It reached back." Cole looked at the markings again. The chains, the flames. The tower wasn't just a ruin. It was part of something bigger. A system. A punishment, maybe. A prison. "This world isn't random," he whispered. "It was made. Built to break us." He stepped back. The floor shifted under him. A section of stone cracked, and suddenly the room rumbled. "Get back!" Rylana shouted. But it was too late. The ground gave way beneath them, and they fell through a hidden shaft into a lower tunnel. Dust filled their lungs. The light above vanished. They landed hard. Cole winced as his arm twisted under Rylana's weight. She rolled off him quickly, pulling at the chain to help him up. "You okay?" He nodded slowly. "I think so." Then they both turned. The tunnel wasn't empty. Dozens of eyes blinked in the darkness. Small, tall, wide. No two were the same. Creatures of all kinds, shapes, and species lined the tunnel walls. Some looked part human. Others didn't look alive at all. None of them moved. None of them blinked again. They just watched, and slowly, one by one, began to step forward. Cole took a slow step back, eyes locked on the silent crowd ahead. Rylana raised her blade, but it shook slightly in her hand. The creatures didn't speak. They didn't growl or hiss. They only walked forward, calm, steady, as if they already knew what would happen. The tunnel felt smaller with every second. "Stay behind me," Rylana said, voice tense. Cole didn't argue. He crouched low, watching the shadows for any sudden movement. The creatures weren't charging, they were surrounding, blocking every exit. It wasn't a hunt. It was a message. Then one of them stopped just a few steps away. It looked like a humanoid figure made of ash and bone with eyes like burning coals. It raised a thin, fingerless hand and pointed at the chain connecting Cole and Rylana. Then it spoke, not in words, but inside their heads. "Trial continues." Rylana stepped forward. "What are you?" The thing tilted its head, almost curiously. Then it faded, turned to dust, vanished like smoke. All the others followed. In silence. In order. One by one they disappeared into the air as if they had never been there. Then nothing. The tunnel was empty again. Cole was breathing hard even though he hadn't moved. What did it mean? Trial? Rylana turned to him, expression unreadable. "We're being watched, judged." She walked deeper into the tunnel. Cole followed. The walls were smoother now, less broken. The deeper they went, the more artificial everything looked, like this place had been maintained. Then they found the second chamber. It was bright, too bright. The walls glowed white, and in the center floated a sphere of light spinning slowly. Around it, holograms blinked in and out, maps, symbols, images of different worlds. Cole stepped forward, and the sphere reacted. It pulsed once. A shape appeared in the air. Earth. Another pulse. A second shape. Rylana's homeworld. Then a third. The prison ship. Burning. Breaking apart. Rylana stared. They knew. They planned this. Cole looked at the final image. The planet they now stood on. Except this time the view zoomed in, showing towers, underground tunnels, strange lights. Then something even stranger appeared. Hundreds of other figures, pairs, chained like them, across the planet. Some surviving, some already dead, some still fighting. "We're not the only ones," Cole whispered. The sphere spun again and spoke, but not in a voice. In thought. Survival is not the goal. Understanding is. Cole frowned. Understanding what? Bond. Unity. Opposition. Choice. Rilana turned to Cole. They want to see how enemies act when they can't escape each other. Or how long it takes before one kills the other. The light dimmed. A new path opened behind the sphere, an exit. But just before they left, the sphere gave one last message. You are not prisoners. You are mirrors. They stepped out into the open. The air outside was hotter now. The sky had turned silver. Strange birds flew overhead, leaving trails of smoke behind them. The planet was changing again. They found a ledge that overlooked a long canyon. Below, broken ships and escape pods were scattered like bones. Some were smoking, others overgrown. This is a graveyard, Cole said. No, it's a testing ground. They stood in silence. The chain between them no longer felt like punishment. It felt like a question, one they hadn't answered yet. Enemies chained together. But maybe not for much longer. Something out there was still watching, still waiting, still judging. They climbed down the canyon slowly. The ground was unstable, broken apart by time and weight. Cole slipped once, nearly dragging Rilana with him. She caught a stone ledge and pulled him up. Neither of them said anything, but he gave her a small nod. Among the wreckage, they found traces of others. A bloodied helmet, a broken blaster, half of a boot still strapped to a burned leg. Everything was old, months, maybe years. But the dust on some bodies was still fresh. Others came here, Rilana said. They didn't make it. They weren't alone, Cole replied. Look at the patterns. Burn marks, weapon trails. She knelt beside a scorched piece of armor. It wasn't from the prison ship. It belonged to someone else. Someone who came to this planet by choice. Hunting parties, she said. Not prisoners, observers. Cole nodded. Or executioners. The idea settled between them like poison. They continued forward deeper into the wreckage. The sky began to flicker again. Wind returned, but it carried no scent, only pressure, heavy and slow. Then they found it. A signal beacon. It was cracked, but still pulsing. A single blue light blinked every 5 seconds. Cole crouched and pulled. Opened the side panel. The beacon's power cell was intact. The transmission was still active, but only locally. No one out there can hear this, he muttered. It's blocked. Can you redirect it? Rilana asked. He tried. For 10 minutes he worked in silence. Sparks flew. Circuits burned. Finally, a small screen blinked. Message ready. Cole typed, still alive, 2 remaining, requesting answer. He paused before hitting send. Not help, he said. Just an answer. He sent it. The screen blinked once, then twice, then stopped. They waited. Nothing came back. They moved on. Hours passed. The canyon narrowed into a sharp ravine, where light barely reached the ground. The chain pulled tight. Between them in the cramped path. Rilana slipped once, and Cole had to brace himself to keep them both upright. She didn't thank him. They found a cave near a collapsed pod. This one was different. Fresh metal, unscarred. Inside, there were rations, dry food, clean water packs. A supply drop, Cole whispered. Planted, Rilana said. We're still being watched. They ate without speaking. Hunger was stronger than fear now. When the food was gone, they rested against the walls, the chain still between them. Their bodies were weaker, but their minds sharper. This isn't about survival, Cole said softly. It's about control. Rilana leaned back, her eyes half closed. Maybe. Or maybe it's about something worse. Like what? Change. Force 2 enemies to suffer together until they become something else. Cole stared at the ceiling. Do you feel different? She didn't answer, but in truth she did. The chain didn't burn like it used to. The human's voice didn't grate on her nerves. His scent didn't bother her anymore. She no longer flinched when their shoulders touched by accident. She didn't want to kill him. Not anymore. and that scared her more than anything else. They fell asleep, not deeply, not safely, but they slept. In the night, a noise woke them. Low hum, like a storm building underground. Then, a voice. Electronic. Hollow. Test progressing. Phase 2 begins. The cave shook, the walls cracked, the floor beneath them split, and before they could stand, the rock gave way. They fell. Together. Still chained. Still alive. But the trial wasn't over. Something had changed, and now the real test would begin. They landed hard. Dust filled the air. Rocks fell around them. The cave above sealed itself, leaving them trapped in a chamber below. Cole groaned, pulling himself up with one hand. The other was still chained to Rilana, who had landed beside him. Blood trickling from her forehead. "You all right?" he asked quickly. She wiped the blood with the back of her hand and nodded. The room around them was wide and unnatural. Smooth walls, carved clean with strange shapes glowing faintly. The space wasn't a natural cave. It was built, designed. Another part of the system. In the center of the chamber stood a tall figure. Not alive, not dead. A machine. It looked like a humanoid frame, tall and sharp, with 6 arms and a head like a crystal. It didn't move. But the moment they stepped closer, its eyes lit up. Rilana drew her blade. Cole raised his guard. Then the machine spoke. Phase 2. Conflict confrontation. A wall shifted behind it, revealing 2 other prisoners. Also chained, a human woman and an alien male, both covered in cuts and burns. Their eyes were wide, filled with fear. The machine pointed at them. Only one pair will proceed. Rilana tensed. They want us to kill each other. Cole lowered his hands. And they want to see if we'll do it. The other pair looked desperate. The alien dragged the woman back, whispering to her in panic. The human woman locked eyes with Cole. She didn't say anything, but her face said it all. She didn't want to fight either. The machine stepped aside, leaving space between the 2 groups. The room turned colder. "Begin," it said. The floor lit up with symbols. The walls began to vibrate. A countdown appeared above them. 30 seconds. Cole turned to Rilana. "We're not doing this." "They are," she replied, pointing to the other pair who were now charging forward. Rilana blocked the first attack with her blade. The alien male swung a broken pipe at her, but she ducked and kicked him back. Cole caught the human woman by the arm and twisted just enough to throw her off balance without hurting her. "They're scared," he said. "Desperate," Rilana growled. "Desperation kills." The fight continued. Not to win, to survive. Cole didn't hit hard. He dodged, deflected. Rilana used precision, wounding, never finishing. The other pair were fast but sloppy. Their fear made them weaker. Finally, the alien male slipped. Rilana pinned him with a knee to the chest, blade to his throat. "Do it," he whispered. "End it." She looked at him. Then at the woman who stood frozen, hands shaking. Rilana lowered her blade. "No." Cole stood beside her. "Neither of us will." The countdown stopped. The room froze. The machine stepped forward. For a moment it said nothing, then calmly it spoke again. Result. Failure to eliminate. Success in restraint. Proceeding. The floor beneath the other pair opened. They fell, screaming. Then silence. Cole and Rilana stood still, breathing hard, their wrists still chained. The machine turned away and walked into the wall behind it. The wall swallowed it like water. Another door opened. Without a word, they walked through it. Not because they trusted the path, but because they had made a choice. They would not become killers. Not for this planet. Not for these trials. Not even to save themselves. Something deeper had started to grow between them. Not friendship, not yet, but something close. A quiet understanding, a shared defiance. They had passed the test. But the planet wasn't finished with them yet. And somewhere beyond the next path, something far worse was waiting. Watching and learning. The new hallway was long and silent. The lights above flickered, casting strange shadows on the floor. Rylana and Cole moved carefully side by side, their wrists still chained. Their steps had become natural, even in perfect sync. Neither pulled nor slowed the other anymore. They had stopped thinking about the chain. It was just part of them now. They reached a chamber with mirrors, tall, glassy walls on all sides, each one reflecting their faces back at them. But something was wrong. The reflections didn't match. In one mirror, Rylana was holding Cole's hand, smiling. In another, Cole stood over her body, blood on his hands. In another, they were both dead. "This isn't real," Cole muttered. "They want to confuse us," Rylana said. "Break our minds." A voice echoed in the chamber. Final phase. Identity. Fracture. The floor under them shifted and the mirrors began to move, spinning slowly. The images inside warped. Cole saw himself as a child, crying in the rain. Rylana saw herself locked in a cage, screaming as her people walked past without looking at her. The mirrors knew them, knew what they feared. "You are not one," the voice said. "You are conflict. You are failure. You are enemy." Cole closed his eyes. "We are not." The chain between them glowed. Rylana stepped forward and punched the nearest mirror. It cracked. The reflection inside didn't shatter, it screamed. Then the mirror exploded into dust. The others followed. Each mirror shattered one by one, as if her action had started a chain reaction. The chamber trembled. The voice tried to speak again, but it broke apart mid-sentence. The walls pulled back, revealing a path forward. They didn't stop. They ran. The hallway opened into a vast dome. It stretched so wide it felt like standing under a sky again. But this sky wasn't real. Stars blinked above, shaped in unfamiliar patterns. In the center of the dome stood a throne, not of gold or steel, but made of bones. Around it, tall figures stood in silence. Not machines, not entirely alive. One of them stepped forward. Its skin was like glass and its voice echoed across the dome. "You passed your trial. You may now be separated." Cole looked down at the chain. For the first time, it released a soft click. The lock weakened. Rylana said nothing. The voice continued. "You may return to your kind, but only one." Cole's chest tightened. "What?" "Only one of you leaves. The other remains. The test must end with one." The figures moved closer. Their faces were hidden under smooth masks, but their presence was heavy. Ancient. Final. Rylana stepped forward. "He leaves. I'll stay." Cole grabbed her arm. "No, you don't get to choose for me." She turned toward him, her voice calm but serious. "You still have a world. I don't." He shook his head. "That's not the point," the voice interrupted. "Decide." Cole looked at her. "We're not playing their game again." He reached for the chain. She understood instantly. Together, they gripped the glowing lock and pulled. Pain shot through them both. The chain fought back. Energy cracked across their arms. The figures around them began to hiss. The throne pulsed. The stars above shook. Still they pulled. Together. The lock shattered. The chain split in two. The dome shook violently. The sky above cracked like glass. The figures vanished into thin air one by one. The throne crumbled. The lights flickered out. Then, silence. Only the broken chain links remained between them, and the ground beneath their feet began to shift again. This time upward, a platform rose slowly, carrying them toward a circular hatch opening above. A way out. Finally. But both of them knew something important. This wasn't the end. It was the start of something new. The platform lifted them into a wide circular chamber. It was quiet. No voices. No traps. No tests. Just a white ceiling above and smooth walls all around. At the center of the chamber, a shuttle rested on a landing pad, its engines still warm. as if it had just arrived. Cole stepped forward, cautious. Rilana followed, her eyes sweeping the chamber for hidden threats. There were none. No guards, no machines, no watchers, just the shuttle and the silence. They're letting us leave, Cole said, almost unsure. Rilana nodded slowly. Or watching to see what we do with freedom. They entered the shuttle. The door opened without resistance. Inside, everything was clean, functional, like it had never been touched. A single screen blinked at the front. A message flashed across it. Destination. Your choice. Cole sat in the pilot seat, hands trembling, slightly. He hadn't seen real technology in weeks. Months, maybe. He looked over the controls, then glanced at Rilana. We can go anywhere. She sat beside him without a word. They stared at the screen. A keyboard blinked to life. Cole typed, Earth. Then paused. He looked at Rilana again. What about your world? She looked away. I'm already forgotten there. He didn't ask again. He deleted the text and typed again, unknown coordinates, neutral zone, just space. The shuttle accepted the entry. The engines hummed. Rilana leaned back in her seat. Do you think they'll come after us? No, Cole said quietly. I think they got what they wanted. She turned her face toward him. What was that? He answered without looking at her. Proof that hate can break. And something else can grow in its place. The shuttle lifted slowly. As it rose, the surface of the planet became visible through the front window. Endless forests, towers, ruins, a vast world still full of traps and secrets and maybe other prisoners who had not yet made it out. Cole stared at the land, eyes sharp. We weren't the first, but maybe we'll be the last. The planet shrank as they rose higher. Then it happened, a quiet sound from the rear of the ship. Rilana stood quickly. Cole followed. A door opened behind them. Inside the small room was a cryopod. And inside that pod, another prisoner, a child. Alien, thin, breathing softly, chained at the wrist like they had been. The pod screen blinked. Subject, Phase 1, pending release. Rilana stared. Her expression hardened. They wanted us to find this, she said. The trial doesn't end. It repeats. Cole knelt beside the pod. This kid was next. He opened the panel and slowly removed the chain around the child's wrist. Rilana watched in silence. The child opened one eye, then the other. It didn't speak, but it didn't cry. Just looked between them both. Cole smiled gently. You're safe now. The shuttle's course locked in, coordinates confirmed. It moved steadily into open space. Rilana stood beside the child and placed a hand on the glass wall of the pod. We broke the cycle. Cole nodded. Together. They didn't say more. The stars stretched out ahead of them, silent and infinite. Behind them, the planet continued to spin, holding its secrets. But they were no longer chained, not to each other, not to the past, not to the trial. Now, they were something else. Survivors, and maybe something more. The shuttle drifted into deep space, its engines quiet, the stars moving slowly across the windows. Inside, the silence felt different now. It was not the silence of danger or waiting, but of peace, of survival. Cole sat at the pilot's seat, eyes fixed on the black ahead. He didn't know where they were going, and for once that didn't worry him. The galaxy was endless, they had time. Behind him, Rilana was checking the systems again. It had become her habit now, like brushing the dust off a blade before battle. She was still a warrior, but something inside her had changed. She walked differently now. Her shoulders weren't as tense. Her eyes didn't carry that same cold weight. The alien child sat between them, silent and still. It hadn't spoken a word since waking up, but it watched everything, eyes wide, absorbing every detail like it was afraid to forget what peace looked like. Cole handed the child a ration bar. It's not much, but it won't kill you. The child sniffed it, then slowly took a bite. Rylana leaned against the wall. What do we do now? Cole looked at her. Whatever we want. She smiled faintly, just a small twitch at the corner of her mouth. That's a dangerous thing to give to people like us. He nodded. Yeah, but we've already lived through worse. The console beeped softly. A signal. Not from the prison system, but from outside. A standard patrol beacon. Cole opened the channel but didn't transmit. It's a Terran ship, military. Looks like a recon unit. Rylana crossed her arms. If we respond, they'll track us, might send questions or orders. They'll see me, see you, ask why we're together, why we have a kid from some unknown race on board. Rylana stepped beside him. Then don't answer. He looked at the blinking light on the console, then shut it off. They flew on in silence. After a while, Cole spoke. Back on that planet, I kept thinking the chain was the punishment. Rylana sat across from him. It wasn't. The punishment was seeing yourself through someone else's eyes and not liking what you saw. He nodded. And the reward? Becoming something new. The child leaned back in the chair and fell asleep. Its hands no longer clutched its chest. It had begun to relax. To believe that maybe it was free. Cole stood up and walked to the back of the shuttle. He picked up the broken chain they had kept, now, split in two, no longer glowing. He placed it carefully into a small case and closed the lid. Why keep it? Rylana asked. To remember, he said, that we were forged in pain, but we didn't let it define us. She stood beside him. It defined others before us. They failed, gave in, killed their partners. The planet consumed them. But we didn't. No, we didn't. They stood quietly for a moment, no longer enemies, not yet friends, but something deeper than either word. Then, from the side window, a sight caught their eyes. A station. Small, old, but stable, hidden between asteroid belts. No beacons, no signals, just lights. Someone had built it long ago and forgotten it. Cole pointed. We rest there. Just for a while. Rylana nodded. Enough running. We breathe first. The shuttle turned, adjusting its course. The stars shifted. Behind them was a world built to break them. A trial made to watch them fall, but they had not fallen. They had changed. And now, free at last, they carried with them the proof that two enemies chained together could survive the worst hell and walk out stronger than ever before.